ask all the questions because they think they know everything, but they don't, and they understand that you all are the experts. But that's just what we're doing today. I guess you can just turn off your cell phones. They only have a 5-minute presentation. Otherwise, it's just Q&A.
So great, and if you don't have your name, if you don't mind, I guess everybody here has their name. What I meant was, if your name is not written, if you would just make it so that the part facing the kids kind of tells them what they should call you. And if I've got your title wrong, and again, this is our guest who's not at J.A. Streets. This is actually my dad, who was a former coach of a team like this, and he's a retired engineer from Eastman. But the main people we want input from are the people who build houses and build buildings, because their solution, the kids' big idea, has to do with that. So you have just plain white paper to take notes if you want, questions. But tomorrow the kids will have 5 minutes to give their spiel and then 5 minutes for the judges to ask questions, and that's it. Today, you guys have a seat right there, graciously gave us 30 minutes, but we've already used 7 on getting your food. So I'll bring the kids in, and without further ado, here come the Hydras. It's their team name. Did everybody get water or any questions? All right, Hydras. Which way? Here we go. How are you walking in?
Really supposed to be.
Hi, we're the Hydras, and we're going to give you a skit about our project.
Almost 100% of the human population wastes clean water on the wrong things, like keeping the water running while you shave and do other things, and what all that water could be used like to cook and drink with. Why are you washing your car? It's just going to be dirty again.
Look at all this water going down the drain. I'm pretty sure we could use it for something else.
And I just flushed the toilet. I think that's drinkable water. I don't think we should be using that.
Why am I watering my garden with the cleanest water I have? I wonder if there is another way.
Our solution is to have a tank in the ground that stores rainwater and gray water and distributes it.
And when the water is needed somewhere in the house, that tank pumps it to wherever the water is needed.
After 48 hours, the gray water starts to get stinky.
Saving money and don't waste water.
Okay, and rainwater is the best for your garden.
Our solution recycles water and is very efficient.
Do you guys have any questions about our project?
Good job, guys.
So what are you using to collect the water?
The gutter, and the gutter collects the rainwater, and then it stores in the tank, and a gray water system will collect the water from household utensils.
So where are you going to reuse the water out of the tank?
It sends a pipe system into the house, and it will use it to flush the toilet and things like that.
Okay.
So not only are you collecting wastewater, you're also running it back into the house to be used for toilets.
So does it clean the water, or does it just disseminate it to where you would normally
It doesn't
use
clean the
gray
water, but it uses it for things that don't need clean water. But you wouldn't use gray water for the spigot to water your garden.
So your tank separates the gray water and the rainwater?
It actually has 2 storage. It's got like two storage compartments in the tank, kind of like 2 tanks, stacked on top of each other.
And you said you had a pump in the system to get the water back out?
It's in the house.
Okay. Do you know how much water you think a house could save a year
No.
from using that? Okay.
Okay, now I think at this point we're gonna switch and give the kids paper and pens, and you kids ask them questions. Because maybe the first question is, could each of you go down the line and just say what is your expertise regarding building houses? Just real quick, so they know who you are besides your name. They kind of know what you're an expert at. So I guess we'll start with you since.
Okay. Actually, I was a licensed home builder for a period of time. I used to build houses from the foundation up. So I'm familiar with pretty much every aspect of building a home. Now, I work predominantly on commercial projects, larger buildings and things.
Okay, so if you're building a new house,
Okay,
how?
same pause. Everybody's gonna introduce themselves, and you guys can even get chairs. Look, your team members can get chairs and just sit right around the table.
Hey!
With good manners, right? Core values. Everybody grab a chair. And keep going, please, and just introduce yourself.
My background's only in structural steel, so really and truthfully, I've not really been into any residential stuff.
But you're still good at asking questions and thinking through things.
Sure.
Absolutely.
I'm a civil engineer, so I deal directly with designing sites, designing how the building sits on the site, and then also where the rainwater goes on the site.
Like Marcus, I primarily deal with commercial buildings now, but my first job was building houses, and at my last job, we still build a few houses. Also have what's called a LEED certification, which is a green and environmentally friendly building certification. And one of the areas of that program is gray water and rainwater collection to be reused on site. So it's interesting to see what you've done here.
I'm Heather, and I'm in accounting, so I don't really have anything to offer you how to do the billing. I'm Sherry Brown. I organize and help these guys set their projects up before they start building the buildings. But prior to coming here, I worked for about 20 years with local government to review the plans that folks like you draw up and to help you get building permits to build what you're building and to build homes and other buildings.
Okay, who wants to ask the first question? Okay, I will. This is for you. And
Me?
yes.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, how expensive would it be to have two pipe systems or sets and a tank for the ground?
I have no idea.
But she knows who to ask, so she's gonna
Yeah.
point ask one of them.
Okay. Mr. Baker?
Go ahead, Marcus. Mr. Pop. Above and beyond a normal house, it wouldn't be a lot more expensive because you already have to, you're piping your water out either to the sewer system or you're piping it to a septic tank where all your wastewater goes anyway. So it would, to give you a finite cost, I couldn't do it at this point, but it would not be a great expense to separate the gray water. Similar to the way a lot of marine vessels are set up. Separate your showers, your sinks, your washing machines, and pipe those to a tank in lieu of taking it to the sewer or septic tank. So you just have that additional piping in the holding tank itself. So depending on how much you wanted to catch and how big a line you went, it could range, it could vary on cost, but it wouldn't be that great of an expense to do so.
And some of your expense would be covered in the savings of the water that you're not using, because you're reusing this water that you've collected, so you're not buying that water, so that would help offset your costs for your system.
Speaking of costs, I think he had a great question. If you could go in, do a little research and find out how much of a savings potentially, I think that'd be huge to work that into your presentation.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
really, that probably would be a good point.
Okay. Also, our thing, it has things that will shut off the pipes if your tank is full. So it'll shut off the imports. So it'll close your gutter, and it has a pipe above it that'll take it to the sewer.
Okay, so you have an overflow pipe to let the water off if the tank's already full. Okay.
So that way it doesn't overflow. The tank doesn't.
Cool.
Automatically.
What are you doing if the tank's empty?
You can use it. You can turn off all of the stuff. You can switch it all off and use the clean water.
See, why don't you take that nice diagram and pass it down? I don't know that everybody got to lay eyes on it. That might help them think of more questions. And I have a question for some of the kids who are more nervous but did just as much work. Which one of you can raise your hand and say something you learned about how gray water and black water and plain water are different? Besides Sam, you've done a lot of talking.
Rainwater lasts longer than the gray water because after 48 hours the gray water starts to stink. The rainwater appears that it's coming.
Right.
So what do you do with the gray water if it starts to,
It drain. If you look at the diagram, it's got a drain which will put it into the sewer,
after 48 hours? Okay.
and also it will drain your toilet if you go on a vacation or something.
Uh-huh.
So that way you don't get home. Ah, it stinks.
Is there any sort of treatment you can add to the gray water to keep it from spoiling?
We researched and we didn't find anything.
Okay.
How about something like from a camper, you know, I mean, just a camper, they make treatment, a way to put a treatment tablet in.
I've never heard of that.
Kids, this is where you say, that's a great idea. What do you think?
What do you think?
I don't know, there could be some treatment tablets or something you could add to it that would potentially make it last a little bit longer. But if you're collecting it from a house, it's probably going to be replenished regularly enough where you wouldn't need to do that.
I think you guys are on a real close track with your gray water and your rainwater. I think what I would do is maybe reverse it. Use your rainwater through the house systems, because it's pretty clean water. We know it's coming straight out of the sky, unless you're in Los Angeles where there's a lot of smog. But, and acid. But if you use your rainwater to recirculate through the house, and maybe, you know, nature's pretty good at filtering out water. If you had your tank going through maybe some sand and some gravel to filter out some of the detergents and things that's in your gray water, which is mostly just going to be soaps and things from a washing machine and from your sink, then your water would probably be close enough to be pure to use on your garden, your gray water, after you filtered it a little bit. Just a thought.
But instead of taking the sand and stuff, you could just do filter systems. I mean, just a screw on.
Filter or something.
Well, I mean, instead of having to change all that out, at least all you have is a filter system. Change it out. They sell those daily.
But we did find out that rainwater is the best for your plants.
That's
So-
I
true.
wouldn't disagree.
That's absolutely true.
But that is a good idea.
That is a great idea. Why are the pencils not being used?
I don't know.
Maybe
Sorry,
go
let me
for
get you
your
in.
your grass, how's that? Go use the rainwater for your vegetables, you can use the gray water.
That works,
Water you want.
You're also probably gonna have a more constant and regular supply of gray water
Yes.
in all the rain. The rain, you may go 2 weeks and not get any. With the gray water, you know, you're probably gonna be taking showers and washing clothes pretty regularly.
Yeah.
You may wanna have a little more storage for gray water than you do rainwater.
Yeah. Anyone else have any questions? Corbin?
How long do you think it would take to like put the tank in the ground and like connect all the pipes and stuff to the house?
Probably just a day or two.
Yeah, you could put a tank in the ground and catch the water within a day, but the problem would be if you've got an existing house, separating the lines. Because right now, my house all runs to one line in the drains. And then all the water that feeds comes fresh water, so you have to run a whole new set of, so it would be tough to do an existing house, but new houses would be very easy.
And that's what we decided. We decided that we wouldn't really work with new house, or already built houses, but it would work.
But you could water your gardens with rainwater.
Yes.
Yeah, you could catch the
You
rainwater. and water your
could, you
gardens.
could still catch the rainwater.
Yeah, sure. What else does catching the rainwater help you? How else does it help you besides using that water, you know?
No, what do you think?
Well, if you've got a piece of dirt where a house is going to go, the rainwater hits that dirt and it gets absorbed into the dirt. If you've got a house now, the rainwater hits the roof, it don't absorb, it runs off. So you're sending it away from your house. So if you're catching it, you're keeping it on site like you were before the house was ever built, which is the way it should be.
but also you have to clean out your gutter more and everything, because if the gutter gets clogged,
Yeah.
gutter.
That's fascinating. I never thought of that. So the benefit of that is kind of
No.
prevents making the
Yeah.
rest of the yard muddy. It's kind
Well,
of
no,
weird.
it prevents runoff and flooding the creeks and streams. Because, you know, a house is not as bad, but you take a Walmart.
Right.
You know, that's 10 acres of asphalt.
Yeah,
So all that water used to go into the ground.
right.
Now it's running into the creek. So by catching it and keeping it on site, you're preventing it from running off into the creek and causing flooding.
And it would work with buildings like Walmart and with houses. You just have to have a bigger scale.
Yeah, bigger scale. Yeah.
Yeah, you could even look at some systems, you know, a lot of Walmarts are just gonna have asphalt, they're not gonna have grass, but even businesses and commercial buildings are, sometimes have irrigation systems for their grass and their plants. And, while they may not reuse the gray water, they may still be interested in collecting the rainwater and using it for irrigation on their property.
Ross, do you have any questions? Does anyone have any questions? Heidi? Katie?
Did y'all investigate any regulations, EPA or somebody else to permit doing this?
No.
These guys might have some insights on that. I don't know if it applies or not.
Are pipes expensive?
No. That's good. I'd heard that the agency was moving toward regulating the mud puddles.
Very much so.
Really?
Very much so.
Really?
And so, you know, that's why I was kind of wondering if this may be an advantage or something.
It is an advantage to reduce the runoff.
Yeah.
So, you know, EPA is saying, you run models on the site, how it is before you ever build on it. So ever how much water is absorbed into the dirt, that's how much you have to keep on site. So this actually helps you keep that water on site. You know, you have to either make little ponds on your site, you know, to hold the water, but your storage tank would be a holding tank for the rainwater. So you're actually benefiting the property owner through the EPA and keeping the rainwater on site.
So, how many houses have you guys like managed or built that do not have gutters or buildings?
Say your question again.
How many houses or buildings that you guys have built or managed have not had gutters?
They're generally all do. Some of them don't have the typical, on commercial buildings, sometimes it's not the gutter at the edge of the roof like you're normally seeing. Where they have a flat roof, they'll have a different gutter system, but they generally all have something that takes the water off the roof and away from the building. Some of them dump it right on the ground. Some of the gutters will go to pipes underground and will take it right to a storm drain.
Corbin, you haven't said anything. Do you have a question? No? Hayden, do you have a question? No?
I think it's fascinating that these experts have brought up this idea of commercial, this is something y'all had not even known about. You were just looking at building new houses, and they're bringing up that there's actually maybe a cost savings, did I hear that? If you do a barrel instead of a pond? I mean, it sounds to me like a barrel would be cheaper than a pond.
Every gallon of water you save, collect, and reuse is a gallon of water you don't buy.
And if you're in the city, they not only charge you for the water that you buy, but they charge you for sewer as well.
That's correct.
They double the amount that you use, so.
And the cities are now charging for stormwater.
What do you mean charging for stormwater?
Cities have a tax, not a tax, what is it, Sherry? A fee?
It's a surcharge.
It's a fee.
Johnson City does it as well.
Yeah, that you have to pay, it's on one of your utility bills,
Right?
that for ever how much asphalt or impervious surface that you release stormwater into the city system.
It's a third line. Now instead of just getting a bill with water and sewer on it, there's another line for stormwater as well. It's based on the amount of run, like you said, based on the amount of runoff that you have on your property.
But that's not just an EPA regulation, that's just the
But-
city trying to put up with the reality that they want people to not put as much water as runoff to prevent flooding or whatever. I
Yeah,
guess
EPA is
that's-
mandating it, starts at EPA and comes down. The cities are allowed to do this fee so that they can pay for their employees that they're having to have to mandate EPA requirements.
Yeah, it helps them maintain their stormwater system, but like you said, it also encourages people to do what they can to reduce the amount of discharge from their site as well.
Piggybacking on that, I have a house I bought 5 years ago that had an irrigation system for the grass, but I can hook it up in a way that I don't pay the sewer rate.
Yeah.
So I save money by
another
recycling. Is that kind of what you're saying at a residential level? I mean, I'm not having to pay the water rate to run water through my spigot or my outside faucet to water my lawn. I actually had to come to a diverter valve and backflow valve at the street.
I guess what I meant is if you had a
So they had to pay a fee up front to get that
Yes,
separate
correct.
meter.
But that's about half, I mean, the water
Yeah.
rate. is
Because you're not paying the sewer.
Yeah,
you're
you're
not
not
paying
paying
the
the-
sewer rate, I'm just paying for water.
But I guess what I was saying is if you had a collection tank and your irrigation system ran off that, you wouldn't have to pay the
They
water
wouldn't have to
or
pay
the
that
sewer.
either.
Right.
Well, you guys have to come out and look at my house. and Good.
So you were talking about the savings of, but there's not just what you said about every gallon that you can reuse as a gallon you don't have to buy, but I'm just stuck on this idea that they could maybe, instead of building a pond, have a tank, or build a smaller
Yeah,
pond, which I guess would be an even huger saving than whatever, how many gallons or not, I mean.
It all depends on property costs and where you're at. You know, if you're rural, you've got plenty of property, you can build ponds, then ponds are cheaper. Because if you have to go underground, then you've got huge tanks to hold the water that the pond would hold.
Right.
And then you have gravel, backfill, and, you know, things like that. But, I mean,
Right.
if you're in a downtown situation where there's no property to build ponds, then that's exactly what you do. You put underground tanks in.
But there would be like a foot above ground, so you could get in there and clean it like a month. Every month.
It would need to have a heater so that way you wash it.
Could be just like a septic tank, still use your water, you could set it.
You could run it into your hot water heater for your house.
I like the tank idea better than the pond. If you got a pond, your water's gonna evaporate, especially like if you go through a period where you don't get rain, you need it, you don't want it to evaporate.
And cold weather also, it's a good point too.
Won't freeze.
Ice, yeah, freezing.
So if it's in the ground, it's probably less likely to freeze than if it's above ground.
Do you have any idea how expensive the tank itself is? Are they pretty reasonable or?
Yeah, polyethylene tanks, 500 gallons, you can get them anywhere from $300 to $500, depending on how thick a wall that you want for them.
Yeah, they shouldn't be, they'd be relatively simple, they shouldn't be very expensive.
A polyethylene tank for what'd you say, 500 gallons, would that be for a residential house? That's probably not for a Walmart. I mean,
Yeah, that'd be for a house, yeah, what they're,
And you said that's only how much?
anywhere between $300 and $500, depending on how thick the wall.
That's just the purchase price.
Well, why are more new houses not being built like this? I'm kind of sitting here flabbergasted. It's like somebody truly has thought of this idea before to catch
Yeah,
rainwater.
Yeah.
I mean, somebody's doing it.
Yeah, there's people doing it. So like people said,
Yeah.
LEED, you know, you get LEED buildings, and we built a few, we've just never done anything with the reuse of rainwater.
Water.
The way that works is you can get your building certified as LEED certified, and there's different levels, there's gold and silver and platinum. And to get the certification level, you have to achieve points for doing certain things on the building. And one of the points that you can get is a rainwater collection, or gray water collection system. That started as a commercial building program, but it's expanded into a new homes. They have a homes version of it as well.
You call it LEEDs?
LEED.
That's really good because
LEED certification.
I'm jumping in here as the coach, but a big part of First Lego League is the kids do the work. And so they have really done this almost all on their own. Peter and Mrs. Fish and I have done as little as possible. But that part of the requirement is that they research other solutions similar to theirs and figure out how theirs is different.
And better or not.
and better or not better, I mean, so one of you should ask them, because it sounds like there are some systems, or maybe I'll just ask as I started, like, how different is their idea from what's already out there?
I don't think very much.
Yeah, okay. That's
They
okay.
had an interesting concept with their rainwater and their gray water in the same tank. If they could expand on that, if they could figure out a good way to filter to combine that,
Yeah.
probably be good. So you've got the concept there.
Yeah, and would it work to have kind of like would it work to have so you could clean out the entire tank, have screws so you can kind of like screws in the tank so you can kind of pull out the layer that's separating the two tanks, like after you drain it all.
Yeah.
So kind of like this. This is the inside. It's got like a screw thing with like small thing, or flange. Yeah. You pull the thing that separates the two.
Called a cleanout plug.
Yeah.
Good.
Well, this is fantastic. We'd love to sit here and talk longer, but we know your time is very limited, and Ms. Fordwine said you only had 30 minutes. So if any of you need to leave, feel free. The kids will probably sit here and think another minute, but I'm not kicking you out. I'm just saying, don't feel obligated to stay. I know she said you were probably only available till 12:30. Also, there's more pizza. There's more oranges, like whatever.
Great amount of work.
You guys have done an outstanding job.
Nice work.
And just say a word about how does this relate to your missions on you gotta build a robot out of Legos, and what's that got to do with water?
I don't know.
Are the missions, how are the missions related to the theme?
Well, the missions are things like you get to flush a toilet and fill up a tank with water.
With the robot?
Yeah.
I see.
And push rain out of the clouds and stuff.
Push it out of the clouds?
Like it's pretend.
Rain. Yeah.
That's gonna be a breakthrough.
So it's a really great program. They're judged in 4 areas. This is the one area is project design. And then core values is another area. They're judged in things like teamwork and having a good attitude. And then the other 50% of the judging is the robot design and how well it performs on the competition table. So of course, First Lego League is famous for the Lego robots because that's what's so jazzy and that's what gets the front page picture. But what they do is every year they design the obstacles on the field to have a theme. So this year the theme is hydrodynamics. And so they were tasked to find a problem in the human water cycle as opposed to the natural water cycle of, rain, evaporation, cloud is the natural, but the human water cycle of factories and people use water, it goes through wastewater treatment, to find a problem in that cycle and to find the problem and figure out a solution. But then in terms of, they had literally a Lego, little toilet thing made out of Legos, they have a flower made out of Legos that the robot puts a water tank made out of Legos into the flower and the flower pops up. So they're learning how to program the robot to do that. But everything on the robot field is just to inspire them to think about the science emphasis for the year. So it's really like what we did as kids as a science fair project. It's like a group science fair project.
And they compete tomorrow?
Tomorrow, nothing like last minute.
How many other schools or groups are you competing
27 teams tomorrow at ETSU and another 27 teams at Dobbins Bennett. This is growing exponentially. 9 years ago it started in Abingdon, Virginia. And then 3 years, with about 10 teams, and then that got bigger, and then 3 or 4 years ago it opened at ETSU, and this year now it's in Kingsport. So we don't have a Bristol one yet, although Abingdon's not too far away, but, so we're competing at ETSU tomorrow.
If you, it might be hard to put a cost on it, but if you wanted to, between now and then, you could probably Google average household water use.
It's a great idea, yeah.
And maybe average maybe average household gray water production, and you could at least get an idea on how many gallons
That's a great idea.
you
Average,
could collect
yes.
per year.
And that's what you were saying was one of the unique things of their design, right, is that the rainwater reuse is pretty common, but incorporating gray water is kind of unique. You think it's possible? I mean, at this level, we're just doing framework. We're not.
If they filtered it, kind of like we discussed, if they use some kind of mechanism, whether it was a